My name is Thorvald Steen. I'm a Norwegian author.
Okay, it's so nice to be here in your house in Oslo. You have written a lot of books, and lately you have written several about your history in a way, or the way you and your family have lived the disease.
Yeah.
Why? Why are you writing about this now?
It was because of the telephone call from my cousin. I thought that this could be literature. And this is to try to describe what shame is.
Thorvald, you and me, we met first time a few years ago.
Yes, 2 or 3 years or something.
And I was so surprised because your story, because you're suffering from a rare disease, and it struck me that the things you were talking about has so much in common with us who are affected by Huntington's disease. And that was a great surprise because I thought we were all alone about all this hardness we'd have in dealing with the genetic disease in our families.
Yes, I suffer from a muscle disease. It's genetic, as you say. Its Latin name is progressive muscle disease, facioscapular humoral. And I did not know that I had this illness before I was about 15 years old. I was, as many Norwegians, a ski jumper. I was jumping 70 meters.
Oh my gosh,
yes,
that's far.
It's far. And I thought that my future should be something like a famous ski jumper. But in the late autumn, close to the winter in 1971, my trainer, my coach, and I understood that something was very wrong.
How? What did you experience?
I was falling so much. That was not typical at all. And my coach sent me to the doctor. And I was shocked because the doctors and the hospital in Norway found in some weeks out that I had this genetic illness. And the doctor said, you can't jump anymore at all. You have to stop immediately. But I didn't listen to the doctor, so I took one more ski jump.
How did that go?
It didn't go very good. I broke both legs. But for me, this was so important because I was sure about one thing, and that was that I would remember that ski jump forever. And that's true.
Maybe we can go back, because when you said that the doctors told you that this was a genetic disease, so you had inherited from somebody in your family.
Yes.
Did you know anything about this, or did your family know?
Of course, after this had happened, I asked my parents, and my father said that no one in my family, and my mother said the same. But the shock was as late as it's 7 years ago. 7 years ago, when I was 59, I heard in the telephone that a woman said that she is my cousin.
And you didn't know anything about her?
I had never heard about her. And I said that I have no cousin, and this couldn't be correct.
Yeah.
But she insisted, and in 2 or 3 minutes I understood that she was right, because she told me the shock number 2, that she had a father and he had the same illness as I have. So this was my mother's brother, but my mother has always said that she had no sister or brother at all. And then all things...
You understood.
I understood it all because grandfather, uncle had the same disease as I. So this has been an enormous shame for this family for many years.
So you grew up without knowing about your uncle and your grandfather, but they were still alive?
When I had this phone call, they were both dead. My grandfather had never seen me because he died in 1939. But my uncle, he had seen me many times in Oslo.
He had seen you?
Yes, my cousin and my uncle had even passed me in the streets of Oslo. And my uncle has told my cousin that that's your cousin and he has my disease. But my mother and my grandmother, the mother of both my uncle and my mother, didn't allow my uncle and cousin to have any contact with me. Because it's the same reason, it's shame.
We have talked about when you learned about the disease that your parents told you they had no knowledge of any disease in their family, but that was not the only thing they told you. They also told you not to tell anybody about this, huh?
Yes, when I got the diagnosis, I was alone with the doctor. The doctor was very sad that my parents wasn't there. I would say, nearly happy that they were not there, because I think it's extremely difficult to see the pain in the eyes of my closest family or the people I'm very close to.
So you were happy they didn't need to know in the same moment as you had to deal with it?
Yes, exactly. So when my mother had heard this, she said, please don't mention this for anyone. Not at the school, not for your trainer or coach, for ski jumping trainer, coach. Not for anyone. Not even for grandmother. And for the first years when I was 17, 18, 19, this politic function. Mm-hmm. It was a secret between my parents and I, and you didn't tell your grandmother? You were close to her? Yes, I didn't mention a word for her because I loved her so much, and I thought that if I told her this, it would ruin her life. I was so ashamed that I were wearing the society's eyes. It is the feeling you have when you go out in a wheelchair. When I had my first tours in wheelchairs, I met persons who were looking on me in another way than before. I saw on myself as a person who would be worse and worse. More and more looking like a person in a Francis Bacon painting. It was, I had nightmares
About yourself?
about myself and how my body should develop. And I could never think about that anyone could love me, could accept me, or know that I would change. It was totally, absolutely a hopeless idea. And having children, I didn't want any talking about that at all, because I thought it was impossible. I was not accepting myself. Why should I accept a child which could have my illness? And so I didn't accept myself. And it developed as far as when I was 23. It was a Friday where I was seriously trying to take my life. I was mentally into it. I was stopped by a mental patient, a woman, and she said that she could see what I was thinking about. And I went home. I was 4 days, which I don't remember anything from, but I went back to job on the Tuesday, and then my head was changed to think in a more positive way that, well, my body is not functioning, I will not live long, but I will do the best I can for other people.
But did you start tell about your disease to anybody?
Now I was starting.